Thanks for being here this morning. As you were all aware, we were notified yesterday by FEMA that they did not have adequate funding for our SAFER application that we submitted last year. This is the third SAFER grant that we have applied for. We originally applied in 2011 and again in 2012. The SAFER grants were created to help communities maintain or increase their firefighting force. When we applied for this grant last year, we knew that there was a possibility that we would not receive this grant, and we have been working on a restructuring plan since before actually we applied for this grant in anticipation that this day may come. And I want to emphasize that we have a plan that minimizes the impact to the citizens of Reno and still supports our council's priority of safe and livable neighborhoods. We will do everything that we can in the next 60 days and beyond to help those 35 firefighters and their families that will lose their jobs as a result of us not receiving this grant. Chief has an operational plan, as I stated, that minimizes the impact to the public. And I'd like the Chief to go through that plan with you this morning.
Thank you, Andrew. Good morning. While yesterday's news was somewhat of a shock, as the city manager stated, we've been working on an alternative response plan almost about the same time that we asked for and requested the SAFER grant. Right now, we are focused on 4 key areas. First and foremost, continuity of service to our community. That is our highest priority. Secondly, we are ensuring that we are doing everything possible to assist those 35 firefighters that will be impacted by this decision. We are staffing or standing up a transition team, and that team consists of both Reno Fire Command staff as well as labor leadership. We're going to look at everything from employment opportunities, daycare, just anything we can do as an organization to assist those individuals that are going to be impacted by this. I met with the IAFF leadership this morning for almost 2 hours. We both agree that we need to focus on the continuity of service to our community to make sure that our community is safe, and we need to do everything possible for our employees that are going to be impacted. I'd like to talk a little bit about Station 10. Station 10 is on North Virginia. Station 10 averages somewhere over about 1,000 calls per year. With respect to the Reno Fire Response System, they take up just over 3% of the call volume generated in our system. They average just a little over 100 calls per month. Early on, we recognized that Stations 2 on Sutro, Station 8, and Station 4 by the university could actually respond deep into Station 10's territory, minimizing the effect of that station being closed. So we are comfortable in saying that that specific area, the map you see behind me, represents what that district looks like with Station 10 browned out. And I'll be more than happy to speak one-on-one with what that means. But we are confident that with our existing staffing and adding Station 10 to our brownout, blackout matrix, if you will have a minimal effect to that district. This is a challenging time, without a doubt, both internally for our organization as well as our community. But we are and we will continue to serve our citizens. We feel and we strongly believe that although we are going to brown out a third station and they will effectively be closed, we still maintain the capacity to adequately protect our community. So, as I mentioned, this will be a challenge for our organization. Anytime we lose any member of our organization, it's a traumatic time for the organization. So, we are working with the labor groups. We are working to make sure that we have that continuity of service to our citizens.
Okay, we'll take some questions.
So brownout just means the station's closed.
Well,
or it's closed sometimes.
Correct. And the question is, what does that mean, browning out a station? And for the most part, these stations will be closed as opposed to how they're currently staffed. As an example, today, Station 19 in Somerset and Station 7 on Skyline this afternoon will be open. Once we get to the point where we've laid off our 35 firefighters, that depth of resources, that ability to staff those stations will be eliminated. However, we will continue to equip those stations. They will have fire trucks in them, and whenever we have periods where we have high risk, high threats to our community, as we have done in the past, and we will continue to do so, we will recall crews to staff those stations. When we have those red flag warning days, we have high winds expected, and there's a possibility of lightning. The city manager has assured me that we can move forward with that plan. We both share the same vision that the safety and security of our residents is paramount, and we will do everything we can, as we've done in the past, to make sure that we're adequately prepared in those situations where we know we're going to have high winds. We know that there's a probability of lightning. We know that it's a red flag day.
So all three will be closed unless it's a red flag day.
Unless, and of course, if we have the staffing to open up that third station, would be Station 10.
How much money you guys are saving by laying off all these 35 firefighters?
Well, we're not saving any money. What we're getting is the fact that we're not receiving the supplemental funding to keep those extra 35 firefighters on the payroll. So there's no net savings to the city.
Yeah,
How long has Reno been receiving a federal grant? How many years?
The first one was in 2011, and as the chief stated, what we asked for in this round was 50 positions, roughly $12 million. And so, it doesn't save the city any money. These were federal funds that we were looking to receive to continue to support and avoid layoffs, frankly. And we received notice yesterday that we did not receive funding.
What did the notice indicate why Reno was denied for the grant this time?
Because they ran out of funding.
I received an email from FEMA, and our application was not rejected. In fact, it
Right.
remained active to the very end. What in essence happened was our active application hit a point where there were no longer federal funds to meet those pending applications that were still viable. So it wasn't that our application was rejected, it's the fact that our application remained active to the very end. However, the FEMA system basically expended all the money that was allocated for that specific program.
How will the affected 35 be notified, and how will they be selected based on seniority?
Joe, that's a good question. What we did, once we got notice yesterday evening, we worked well into the evening to determine a communication plan, not only internally but externally as well. And this morning at 7:30, I notified the union leadership that we had been our application had not been awarded. And immediately at 7:30, I sent out an email to the fire department staff. And I also followed up with a conference call with all the stations this morning at about 7:45. And this is difficult news. I mean, there are 35 families that are going to be impacted by this. So again, we wanted to make sure that our organization knew first. Then we wanted to outreach to the community to ensure that the message you got was factual, it was timely, and it was responsive to what was going on within the city, and to convey that we are going to be executing our Plan B, if you will, in terms of covering the city because of the impacts of this decision.
I will also add, we will be meeting with the 35 firefighters that are impacted directly. We'll be meeting with some this week and then over the coming weeks as well.
And these are just firefighters, no fire captains, no fire battalion chiefs, just firefighters.
These are firefighters, and contractually, the way there is language in the labor contract that basically says the most recently hired firefighter is of the lowest in seniority, and that would be the person that speaks to your question, Joe. That would be the person that gets the notice first.
Are there other funding opportunities you can pursue?
At this point, we're working off a worst case scenario. So, we know that there are going to be 35 firefighters that are impacted. As we move through the budget process, if we identify some sources that may, could potentially save one or two positions, we'll explore those. But this is a path forward that the city manager and myself and our command staff will work towards as we go through the budget process.
Yeah, and we're in the middle right now of developing the budget for next fiscal year. And so as we go through that process, if there is an opportunity to save some of these jobs, we will do that where we can.
So let me understand this, in 2011, if you had not received the funding then, for whatever reason, this would have occurred then?
That's correct.
And so there's been a plan in place all along for this potential day?
Absolutely. In fact, when we received the award for 64 positions, we started to attrition. We implemented an attrition plan as people retired. We waived those positions. In fact, this second application represents the phase two, if you will. We had asked for 50 positions as opposed to the 64. So we were working our dependency off those federal grant dollars.
35 positions seems like a lot of positions. Can you give us a sort of idea what that means in terms of firefighting ability and so on and so forth? You're saying that it's minimal impact, but...
No, I'm not saying it's minimal impact. And 35 positions is significant. And, our plan calls for the closing or a browning out of another station. So that in and of itself is a significant position. This is our reality right now. And, again, we are going to adjust our staffing model. And unfortunately, it means browning out and closing a third station.
And 35 firefighters is basically equivalent to 3 stations. And that's why you hear, that we added one more station to that brownout matrix, because 35 firefighters equals 3 stations.
Do you think it's only gonna be 35 positions? I mean, you had 64 positions funded, you're asking for 50 positions funded with the grant. Is 35 a realistic number?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely it is. I mean, from the 64 to the 50, we had already attritioned out those 14 positions over the last 2 years. And we believe through the restructuring and the plan that we've put together, we can make up another 15.
Andrew, what does it say about the economy? Obviously, the city still isn't where it needs to be in terms of the revenue coming in to pay these extra firefighters.
Yeah, and I think that's a great question. I mean, while the economy is improving, we're seeing sales tax numbers improve. Obviously, home prices are improving. But for us, I mean, when you look at property tax, for example, which is, that would be the greatest impact of the increase in home prices, we don't see the results of that for 3 years. So while home prices may be going up, any increase in property tax associated with that, we won't see for another 2 years.
Can you speak to perception? On Friday, we extensively covered the opening of a new station.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that's been one of the questions that I've received quite a bit this morning is how is it that we could open a station on Friday and the following week we're issuing layoff notices. And it's really quite simple. That station was already staffed and equipped. We were operating out of a temporary facility. That Station 12 was built via a public-private partnership, and that's been established. So we, in essence, just moved from one facility into another. That station will not be impacted by any brownouts or any type of a closing scenario. All we did was we moved from basically rental property into our permanent home.
Does this impact any possible merger with the county's fire services or some of the county's fire services? Correct me if I'm wrong, but this grant required certain staffing levels that at one point in time the county seemed to have some concerns with.
And this does not affect the question of whether or not the city of Reno consolidates with the county. Consolidation really deals with the most efficient use of all of our fire resources in the valley. How do we most efficiently utilize those resources? For us, I mean, we can still cover the city, I mean, as we've outlined today. So it's really a separate conversation, consolidation is. How it will impact those discussions, I mean, I don't know. We'll find out today. I mean, I know the county commission has an item on their agenda to discuss this, so I'll be interested to hear what they have to say.
How tough is it to have to go to these guys, some of them you've probably known for quite a few years, and tell them that they're going to lose their jobs?
Well, let me be clear. That is probably the single most difficult thing our organization has to deal with. To look 35 individuals and tell them, you've been here 6, 7, 8, 9 years serving our community, and unfortunately come July 1, we're going to have to give you a pink slip. That's probably one of the most difficult things as chief I have to do. And it's a difficult thing for our organization. And so we are trying to address that by developing a transition team to help those individuals as they go through this process.
And what's the effect going to be on response times in those areas that the peripheral?
Yeah, the impact to the Station 10 district will see an increase in response times, probably anywhere from 2 to 4 minutes. It just depends on the location of the call. And again, the map behind you shows what that looks like. You can see the shaded area is our ability to respond within 8 minutes with that station being closed. So there's a very small segment in the Golden Valley area that will be impacted. They'll be just right outside the 8-minute mark. But again, we strive to make sure that we can deliver our service in an effective and quick manner. This isn't going to be easy for anyone, but we're going to adjust, and we're going to, work on our continuity of service and making sure that our employees are well taken care of.